climate change. I'm just wondering, as president, what can you do starting on day one to move this forward with the urgency that it requires?
Yeah, so the question is how a president kind of tactically can make a difference on climate change right away. First of all, it is immediately rejoining the international community, rejoining Paris, but also asking what, actually trying to lead what the next step will be, because we know that even Paris may leave us vulnerable in terms of where the Earth is actually headed. We also know that by executive order, a president can make sure that the government is leading by example. I mean, you look at the military, for example, and military procurement and just the use of energy in the military. The Obama administration did some really good work on this. The Secretary of Navy, for example, was really doing some path-breaking work on energy, biofuels, you name it, to try to make sure that this massive user of energy was part of the solution, not part of the problem. Some of that can be done by executive order, in the same way that back in South Bend, to try to make sure that our fleet and our processes are greener as a matter of how we run our own organization. But it's more than just the federal government as an entity. It's got to be part of a national policy. It's why we need to set to work right away on carbon pricing. It's also why I believe we need to appropriate the funds for something on par with the Manhattan Project to deal with reducing the cost of renewables, to deal with increasing the capacity for energy storage, and learning more about carbon storage as well. Because net zero emissions is probably more realistic than kind of absolute zero emissions. So let's get that far quickly. And that kind of Manhattan Project, just to put some numbers to it, if you think about the actual Manhattan Project or the Apollo Project, in today's dollars, you'd be putting out about $10 billion on that. That's a lot of money, but when you consider that we're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar problem, I think it's an investment with a pretty good return. And so to the extent that it can be done right away by realigning what's already appropriated, we do it that way. But I also would go to Congress and ask for adequate funding to deal with what I, again, would describe as a security issue, not just a moral issue for the country.
Would you support a carbon fee and dividend?
Yes, that's what I was getting at when I talked about carbon tax being something that can be rebated out to people. So that I like the way you put a fee and dividend. Because that's the point. Again, this is not about taking money out of the economy. This is about making sure that the pricing of, and by the way, when we do that right, it also shows the true cost of having the kind of goofy transportation systems that we have, right? So when you think about, again, this is not about abolishing air travel, but you would expect the most advanced country in the world to have a dramatically better rail network than we do, which would have a lower carbon. And carbon pricing would help bring that about. I mean, it would be nice to have like Japanese standard trains, but I'd be happy with Italian level trains. Just get us around. It'd be great for the Midwest, and I think we've got to do it. Yes?